Welcome to today's South-South News program. I'm Bill Miller. The main purpose of South-South News is to focus attention on unique economic, social, and developmental activities that are taking place primarily in developing countries. Today we're going to hear about a very unique program that's just being implemented, and it's going to be one that's going to help the United Nations achieve the 8 Millennium Development Goals that were adopted at the UN in 2000. September of 2000, the countries of the world came together to focus on some major problems, and they came to an agreement on what they wanted to do and to accomplish them by the year 2015. And my guest today is very involved in a very unique way to help achieve these goals. I want to welcome Mr. Talal Abu-Ghazaleh for being with me today. He is the chair of the Global Alliance for ICT and Development, and the ICT is Information and Communication Technologies. Mr. Abu-Ghazaleh is the past vice chair of the United Nations Global Compact. He was vice chair in 2007, 2008, and he was also the co-chair of the UN ICT Task Force in 2001, 2005. Mr. Abu-Ghazaleh, welcome to South-South News.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I appreciate you being with me today. We're going to get into ICT in just a moment. There are so many unique aspects, but you have been involved in a program called the Global Alliance for ICT and Development. GAID, G-A-I-D is the acronym. Yeah. Tell us a bit about what is the Global Alliance for ICT and Development.
Let me say first how delighted I am to be in this program because I belong to the South. I'm very much a South person, not only by birth but also by interest. And I just received an hour ago the First Lady of Sao Paulo, and we're talking about, if I can just shift focus to the timeline, we will be launching the MDG e-enabler, which is an electronic tool to accelerate the process of development in Sao Paulo in March, as I promised the Secretary General, His Excellency Ban Ki-moon. In my mandate, which he approved, the timeline was that we start developing this project of a cyberspace, web-based, dynamic program. It's an animal. It's not a database. It's more than that. It is a database. It's a portal of portals. It's a matrix, but also it is a tool whereby development agencies, whether governmental, private, or civil society, can access it for free and can get the assistance they need in the best tools available for implementing development. So it is an action-oriented program and not just a general program. I'm saying this in introduction to show the focus of GAID because you asked me about GAID. GAID, as the name says, is about ICT and development. ICT is an enabler for development. In fact, if you look at target 8F, in goal 8 of the Millennium Development Goals, it says that the development process can be aided by the use of information and communication technologies in partnership with the private sector. And this is what GAID is. GAID is the only multi-stakeholder organization of its kind in the world, which includes governments, private sector, academia, civil society, and governments. So this is a truly multi-stakeholder organization. It was established as a result of the WSIS process in Tunisia. In 2005, the Secretary General of the United Nations was asked to establish a multi-stakeholder organization for ICT for development. And this is how it was born. Obviously, I was part of the earlier preparation because, as you mentioned, I was the co-chair of the UN ICT Task Force, which did the preparation for this global alliance, and and it helped give birth to it in the summit meeting of the World Summit on Information Society, WSIS.
And as I mentioned in the opening, the UN Millennium Development Goals, I didn't go into the Millennium Development Goals, but these were very important goals as far as identifying. They wanted to reduce abject poverty by the year 2015. They wanted to reverse the AIDS epidemic, to promote sustainable development and sustainable. So there are 8 really very logical and measurable goals that the countries of the world have signed on to, and not only the countries of the world, but the many private sector people, many non-governmental organizations, faith-based groups, service clubs such as Rotary International, just a wide range of groups have decided they want to really move these forward, and this is a very unique entity that you're involved in. Now, how will they, you have this set up, and you're going to have to explain this to me because you know it much better than I.
No, I'm not sure I do.
Well,
That's
we'll
very modest of you, but it's
we
okay.
will learn together.
But it's
very
okay.
good. But now, how will this work as far as, how will people tap into it? Let's just take one. Say we're trying to promote economic development, sustainable economic development. This is of interest to business people, to workers, to the economies. Every economy in the world depends on it. And they want to promote this. How will they be able to tap into GATE, the Global Alliance for Information ICT Development? How will they be able to do that?
Let me start first by saying that the Millennium Development Goals were probably one of the very major, great accomplishments of the United Nations. One of the most noble decisions taken at the UN, which, and the great thing about it is that you don't find one person who would say, no, we don't want to achieve these goals. So there is unanimity, unlike the multitude and the majority of decisions taken at the UN. And that was also amazing that at the end of this PrepCom meeting, which we had yesterday and today, when we read the conclusions this noontime, it was unanimous. We did not have a single dissent because nobody would argue against the process of development in the wide sense of it. And we're not talking about only the Millennium Development Goals, because the world has to live beyond 2015. So we need to have sustainable development. We are now working towards that goal, but in the process we want to create tools and vehicles that can be used continuously, updated, developed, to ensure sustainable development for many years to come. 2015 is tomorrow. The world is not measured, life is not measured by years, it's by centuries and by much longer time frames. So in fact, we're talking about the new millennium. So we're thinking of millennium. It's a part of the name of this project is Millennium Development Goals. So we should always remember that what we're doing is not only important until 2015. It's important for the continuity of humanity. You mentioned economic development. That happens to be my field because I'm come from the business sector. What are the tools available for economic development? One of them is capacity building. Now, what capacity building? What we did is a matrix, and the matrix takes the targets of the millennium, each goal. In each goal there are targets, as you know. We take each target and we split it, we divide it into various sections. And then we look what is available in the best practice as tools for achieving an improvement in the process of accomplishing the development process in that sub target. So just to give a simpler example, because if I go into economics, it's going to be a bit complicated. Let me give the mobile medical service, for example. How many people die on the way in a car, in the hospital car, what you call the ambulance,
yes,
between the accident and the hospital. So but there are technologies which can now be used, and we use this actually, this very example today in our presentation about this, what we developed as an enabler, in how we can advise and help governments develop technologies, information and telecommunication technologies, in in the process of handling a victim or a patient on his way to the hospital, and not just waiting for him to arrive to the hospital to be treated. So what I'm talking about is a whole telecommunication